Hey guys, welcome back to the Tone Show. I've been on the Apple TV binge as of late, and I've been thinking to myself, there's some pretty good sci-fi shows on here. So I'm going to share with you guys 5 sci-fi shows that I found on here that I really enjoy. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview, a breakdown on every show. Don't worry, there'll be no spoilers on this one. And at the end, after I talked about all the shows, I'm going to give you a little bit of a idea which ones I think are my favorite and in order. And I'm also going to give you a little bit of guidance of what type of sci-fi you're into and which one I think you might enjoy the most. So the first one we're going to talk about is based on a novel. It's called Dark Matter. The writer of the novel is Blake Crouch, and in this particular show, it's about a physicist who's a father and a husband, and he gets kidnapped into an alternate reality. So if you're into like the multiverse idea, like this is for you. Like basically, he has to make his way back to his family, and he has to like overcome all the obstacles, and he has to figure out solutions to these problems that nobody would even think of, right? Because you're dealing with the multiverse. So I found the show to be very interesting. I finished the whole season, and I binge watched. At first, it seemed a little bit slow, but once it started getting going, this show's pretty good, and I really enjoyed it. And if you're into like whole moral questions and into your sci-fi, like this is definitely something you would enjoy. It felt like a very long episode of Black Mirror. The next show we're going to talk about, a lot of people are saying that there's no must-watch appointment TV on right now. And I would argue that Silo was just ended season 2 right now on Apple TV Plus. Is appointment TV if it was still on, right? It's an awesome show. It's basically about these people. There's 10,000 people. Some horrible thing has happened that's driven them underground, and they all live in this giant silo. So think of it like a bunker, basically, that houses 10,000 people, and the air outside the silo is poisonous, so they can't go outside of this silo. And what's happening is the characters inside this show, they have their own constitution. They call it the Pact, and they have to live their lives by this constitution, like these rules. And suddenly, different characters on the show start to figure out that things might not be what they seem. And there's a bigger mystery afoot about what happened outside and also what's happening inside the silo. This one's a giant mystery, and it's for people who are like into apocalyptic shows. I found it really interesting. It's especially one of my favorite shows that was on TV right now. So that's the silo. This next show we're going to talk about is called Foundation. It takes place in space. It's like basically it's a giant world building masterpiece. It's visually stunning. Think of it, basically you have these clones, these 3 clones, and they rule this giant empire. While they're ruling this empire, the clones, there's a young clone, there's like a middle-aged clone and an elder clone. And the middle-aged clone is basically the one that does all the ruling, and the younger clone is learning from the middle-aged clone, and the older clone basically advises. It's an interesting concept. All of a sudden, there's this revelation, there's like this equation that comes forth, and it says that something terrible is going to happen. And the clones have to basically contend with this, the fact that everything's going to change if this equation or basically this prophecy comes true. So that's what Foundation is about. So if you're into like large scale storytelling or you enjoy Dune, like this is like Game of Thrones and Dune like mixed together. So, and it all happens again in space on these different planets. So if you're into like that large scale sci-fi, I think you would enjoy Foundation. This next show we're going to talk about is called Severance. Severance is very hot right now. A lot of people are talking about it. It's a really interesting show. It's basically these people who work at a company called Lumen, and inside Lumen they develop this procedure where they can actually sever the personal thoughts and the work thoughts of the workers who work inside the building. They start to figure out that the things that they believe are happening inside the building and even outside the building may not be true. So it's very trippy. It's basically like, think about like The Office meets Lost, and it's a large mystery that has to basically be unraveled. So it's a great show, and it's very quirky. Like I was on my comment, somebody said it was like Office Space in a sense, but with like a whole different sci-fi, like Black Mirror twist to it. So that's Severance, and it's on Apple TV, and I definitely encourage you to check it out. And lastly, we're going to talk about Invasion. Invasion is the last show that I'm going to recommend on Apple TV. That's a sci-fi show. Invasion is basically like the word, like the name says it. There's a large-scale alien invasion that's taking place on Earth. The story is told from the different points of views of different characters all around the globe. So if you're into subtitles, this one's for you, because there's a character who's Japanese and you have to read subtitles. Instead of like focusing on the aliens themselves, this particular show really focuses on the point of view of the different characters around the globe and the human aspect of the invasion. So don't think it's going to be like Independence Day. Like if anything, I would say that's one negative about this show. Like it's not aliens, obviously, and they're running around, but it's a much more human aspect show, and it's more about the characters and their feelings and what's going on in their lives when this invasion is happening. So if you like your little more in-depth sci-fi, where you like aliens, but you also like a human aspect to the storytelling, this Invasion might be for you. So those are all the shows that I think you should definitely check out if you're into sci-fi on Apple TV. There may be more shows. Put in the comments what the shows that you enjoy on Apple TV that are sci-fi. So me personally, if I had to put these, like rate them on a scale, I would say that my top two is definitely Silo and Severance. Those are two shows that I'm really enjoyed watching. Then I would say Dark Matter is right below those shows. And then I would say Foundation. Foundation because it's such a sprawling show. I feel like it took so much homework to figure out what was going on. It's very intensive. But if you're into like space dramas, Foundation's for you. If you're into mystery, Severance and Silo are for you. If you're into aliens or just shows with a lot of emotion and it's more about the characters interacting, I would say Invasion's for you. If you're thinking about getting Apple TV Plus, what shows you would think that you would be interested in watching? Put it in the comments as well. If this video is okay, I might do another one about comedies or another maybe genre on Apple TV Plus. As always, guys, this is a Tone Show. Tone Show.